For our entire adult lives, the US government has lied to manufacture consent for war. They lied about the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They lied about the babies being thrown out of incubators in Kuwait. They manufactured the consent, started wars they couldn't win, and years later we learned it was all a lie. So after decades of being fed the same lies to justify war, are we really supposed to believe them now that they're pointing the finger at Iran? Let's get into it. So the most famous example of the US propaganda playbook is the story of a 15-year-old Kuwaiti girl known only as Nayara. In 1990, she testified before Congress that she worked as a volunteer nurse and witnessed Iraqi soldiers pull babies from incubators and leave them to die on the cold hospital floor. Now, her tearful and dramatic testimony was seen by millions of people and repeated by George Bush to justify the Gulf War. But it was all a lie. A public relations firm orchestrated the testimony for Citizens for a Free Kuwait, which was a front group for Kuwait's ruling class family. The girl was not even a nurse. She was the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador who was a member of the ruling class family that wanted the U.S. to help them retake power and control the country's vast oil and wealth. And the pattern of manufacturing consent to justify pillaging and plundering always repeats itself. Before the 2003 invasion of Iraq, the Bush administration spent months warning that Iraq had stockpiled these weapons of mass destruction, and those weapons pose an imminent threat to America, could be any time. That claim was reported thousands and thousands of times to help manufacture consent for an invasion of Iraq. And after the invasion, no weapons of mass destruction were ever found. Intelligence agencies admitted that they lied, got it wrong, and media outlets like the New York Times and Washington Post apologized to its readers for helping manufacture consent for a war that killed hundreds of thousands of people. You see, the cycle is the same. Accuse, manufacture, invade, and then steal. And we could talk about America's defense spending and all the bombs America has to make it seem like any war we go into is a war that can be won. But the reality is that many countries have similar amounts of machinery and they got the willpower. And just because you can go into a country doesn't mean you'll ever get out. What all of this does mean is hundreds of thousands more dead and American parents getting sent their children's remains in flag-covered coffins. And now the same playbook is being carefully built against Iran. For years, headlines have warned us that Iran is just weeks away from a nuclear bomb. These deadlines never arrive, and their lies, predictions, never materialize. And now the country known for brutalizing and killing peaceful protesters is somehow worried about protesters in Iran. And if you look closely, the language they use is carefully chosen, right? They don't talk about Iran as a sovereign nation of 90 million people. Whenever they talk about Iran, they use words like regime and Islamic. The word Islamic is used like a slur in these news reports, and that makes it easier for Americans to see Iranians as enemies rather than a sovereign nation full of people. It's the same playbook of dehumanization that paved the way for the invasion of Iraq. But here's one big difference though, right? We've lived through this before. We've lived through their lies before. So after decades of lies, do you really believe they're telling the truth this time?